can actually leave the airport for up to 72 hours and visit other sites. So those are the factors that make it very attractive to Chinese travel groups going to Jeju. And of course, that doesn't necessarily represent the high-end or the medium-end market in terms of Chinese travelers, and that's something that Jeju government as well as the Jeju operators understand. And one of the reasons driving the integrated resorts development Jeju is to compete with Singapore or Macau or some of the other areas that the higher end customers are going to. But of course the difficulty is, again, the size of the investment that could be put into developing integrated resorts in Jeju. And again, that comes back to the issue of locals being able to enter casinos or not. And so based on that, Jeju as well as Incheon are kind of the key areas that are looked at by the gaming community as kind of precursors to whether Korea can open up or not. But the reality is what's happening in Incheon or Jeju does not necessarily give realistic indications as to whether Korea can open up as a local market. What does that mean? Well, similar to Japan, it means that you need a bill to be submitted to the National Assembly, and for the National Assembly to actually pass the bill for Korea to expand its current local casino market. As you know, you will hear a lot regarding the Korean market about Gangwon Land as the country's only local casino. It is a monopoly because it's the only one that has the right to operate in Korea, but it is not an exclusive one. In other words, the law that allows Gangwon Land to exist does not preclude the development of other local casinos. So when you hear discussions about 2025 or 2020, whenever Gangwon Land has a license to operate, developments can take place before that license expiring, because again, it is not an exclusive operation. So based on that, one can note that Korea is at a point where it needs to decide whether it's going to open up like Singapore or maintain its current status as a foreigners-only destination. One of the key factors that I think that would drive Korea to ultimately open up is Japan. We heard earlier today that Japan has submitted a bill and could pass a bill as early as June 22nd in the current session. Should Japan actually open up, that would have a serious impact on the existing Korean casino market as well as the tourism market in terms of non-gaming tourists coming into Korea. One of the issues that Korea has with Japan as in terms of geographic proximity, those who can go to Gangwon Land from Seoul require a driving time of 4 hours. So you can drive to Seoul, you can drive to Gangwon from Seoul by 4 hours. You can get to Manila or you can get to Macau in less than 4 hours. And you can get to Osaka or Tokyo in less than 2 hours from Seoul. So it becomes a very important issue for the Korean government to consider whether it would make sense to continue its current regulatory environment, even though Japan opens up and more Koreans are going to go to Japan because of the close proximity. Already, since 2010, we're seeing a slowdown in terms of growth for Gangwon Land in terms of revenues, as well as the number of visitations. Does that have a direct correlation with the rest of the Asian casino destinations popping up and developing further? Well, there has yet to be any specific studies by the Korean ministry, but I would say that there probably is a clear connection there, that there's more development taking place in Philippines, Singapore, and Macau since 2009 and 2010, and that's probably what's driving many of the Korean casino players to seek destinations overseas rather than visiting Gangwon Land. So those are some of the factors that the Korean government is going to have to consider in terms of formulating policies. At this point, another major factor that's complicating things in terms of whether the Korean government is going to move in the direction of opening up is the recent tragedy with the ferry boat sinking in April. For those of you who know, there was a ferry boat that was carrying 400 passengers or so, and of them, the majority of them unfortunately passed away at sea. And that has pushed the country into a very serious and mournful period. And whether Korean politicians and Korean Congress can return to, prior to that accident in March and early April to discuss the issue is another matter. So it will take some time before the Korean government policymakers are able to look at this issue and try to determine what the course of the policy is going to be. Let's see. I think that pretty much sums up what I have to tell you today. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. No questions. Wow.
Thanks. I'm just curious. I mean, if you're looking at the market,
Sure.
for foreigner-only IRs, I mean, what are they going to do? Where are their customers going to come from, and how many of them are there, and how many are not coming yet?
I mean, it's a very good question, which is an issue that the policymakers are going to have to grapple with, because Korea already offers enough of a foreigners-only casino market, even within the Seoul metropolitan area. There's 3, and there's one in Incheon that they're talking about. Yes, you could probably add 1, 2, 3 more of a similar operation, but would that really attract the different types of people? People coming to Macau, people going to Singapore, people going to Las Vegas, they probably go there not just for the gaming, but for other entertainment and the experience. And well, mini IRs, as I like to refer to them, the foreigners-only casino IRs, would those properties be able to supply a similar